Hello and welcome back, all of you amazing consumers of Pax Dei and Pax Dei related content out there. I'm Altari, the professional gamer, and this is another PAX Friday review, the show where we talk about all the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has dropped for PAX Dei over the last week. Wow, we had a week this week, or what? Am I right? In case you have been living underneath a rock or you just didn't open YouTube or the Pax Dei official Discord, we have an Alpha 2 date. It was just announced and it is going to be happening on April the 23rd. It's a Tuesday, and there is a lot of information that's going to be coming out in the following weeks to fill all of you in with all of the really cool changes that the team over at Mainframe has been working on for PAX Day's Alpha 2. And believe it or not, we were able to secure the exclusive interview with the developers talking about all of that. We talk about the future, we talk about some of the past, and we talk about the present, because the present is a present and it really is a gift. And it was a really fun opportunity to get to sit down and talk with not only two people who are just as passionate about the same game that I am, but also just two people who are really cool and really knowledgeable about the subject area that they work in. And it was such a fun thing to do this interview, and I'm so excited to be able to share that with all of you over the next couple of weeks. And in fact, there is a schedule somewhere, and today, the 22nd of March, was where we covered combat. We had a whole discussion about combat, where it's going. That's really awesome. You should totally check it out if you haven't. And then next Friday on March 29th, we're going to be talking about PvP. Then we have exploration and dungeons that are going to be covered in the following Friday. And then the last Friday of this interview series, we're going to be talking about crafting, and there have been so many changes with crafting over this period that we've been in between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. So all of that is super cool. I'm going to leave that to the videos that are covering that, and I just wanted to take this opportunity because God forbid I drop and not have a PAX Friday review. That is never going to happen. And I just wanted to share a couple of things that I don't want anyone to miss out on, because one of them has to do with actually applying and making sure that you increase your chances to as much as you can for getting into the next alpha. And then, yeah, we're going to go over a couple of the announcements and cover all of that. So if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe. Share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in PAX Dei. And as always, if you enjoy this type of content, please do also hit that like button. It really helps get our video out there to as many people as we possibly can. So let's go ahead and hop over to the Discord. We'll touch on a couple of things, and we'll see you over there. All right, so here we are at the start of the announcement that put us on a trajectory to learning a whole heck of a lot more about what's going on in Alpha 2. And yes, it is coming out on April 23rd. There are going to be 100,000 players that are going to be invited from day one. Now, I think it's pretty interesting here that they said from day one, because that almost implies that they might be opening it even to more people at a later time. But I have no other knowledge on this. That's purely just conjecture. But either way, 100,000 players. If we look at the number of players that are members of the Pax Dei official Discord, there's like 55,000 at the last time I checked. As part of the alpha registration process, having your Discord linked is been confirmed to increase your chances of getting access. They're just barely over halfway in terms of filling the total number of players that they're going to be inviting. So I find it really, really important that all of you, when you go to sign up, which again, you have until April 15th to go and sign up on playpaxday.com for the alpha, make sure you link your Discord to your Pax Dei account. That's going to be so important. It's going to really get all of you a higher chance of getting access. It goes also without saying that if you are a founder on Discord, you are also guaranteed to be getting access. I think there's about 6,000 members of the Discord that have the elder role. That's something that you would have gotten if you were there in the first 2 to 3 weeks, I think, of the game being announced over a year ago. But if you are one of those first members, you are just by default being given access to Alpha 2 on April 23rd. So if you're in that category, start planning now. But other than that, the post went in to talk about why they're extending it a few weeks. They were originally planning on releasing it within the first quarter, but we are about 8 days away at this point from the end of the first quarter. So they gave us a little bit more justification for why. They said that they wanted to make sure that the features and the content that they were pushing out to the general audience were at a level that they wanted it to be so that they could get the feedback that they needed, essentially. So I believe wholeheartedly that, you know, when you're developing a video game, especially an MMORPG, you should be thinking more about the features and the feedback that you're going to be getting from those features rather than just pushing out a product, an unfinished product or an unready product to meet a specific deadline. In terms of the Wilderness Alpha, what are we going to be getting into? Well, the first alpha was all about building, and it had not too much with regards to PvE or exploration, though you could do it. This alpha is pretty much all about the PvE and also the PvP, but more so going out and exploring and then bringing things back to the villages that we are all going to create. So you have to gear up, you're going to incrementally improve, you're going to progress, and your gear progression is kind of how we advance in Pax Dei, other than the RPG skills, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then there's also a lot more dangers that have presented themselves in any of the footage that we've shown so far on the channel. You will notice that I die a lot more than probably I should. That is because the difficulty for all of the mobs that exist in Pax Dei have been dialed up, and that is actually a really good thing. Combat is actually really, really engaging in this alpha. I know that the animation, some people might say, oh, they don't look that great, it doesn't look like things are impactful, but I can tell you that I haven't had to play this intricately with a team to accomplish goals like going into a dungeon or going through a point of interest on the open world map. So it's actually a really good and positive step in the right direction, though there are a lot, and I mean a lot of improvements that the developers need to make on the system to continue to build it into the thing that I believe is going to be a really rewarding and possibly even one of the bigger highlights for Pax Dei as an MMO and a game in general. That being said, then you need to level yourself up. You need to go and do the activities that gain more experience in those particular trades or weapons. There is also the PvP zone known as Lyonesse. That is a small map where it is full loot, very hardcore PvP, and it has barely any restrictions on it. This is going to be some nitty gritty, buried down in the dirt PvP that's going to be going on there. I know myself am both excited and extremely intimidated to go in there. I can tell you I will not be bringing my best PvE set into this zone because there is going to be just pure chaos depending on when you're in there. And the reason for that is because progression, while you can easily do it outside of going into the PvP zone, it is so much more efficient to be able to go into the PvP zone, get your pure iron, and bring it back in order to make steel and to continue progressing. It takes a lot more time and effort to do that exact same thing by going out into a wilderness zone outside of your home valley and then just collecting a lot of wrought iron or impure iron in order to progress in that way. So there is a lot of benefit into going into these zones or knowing someone who does go into these zones, and the ability to trade or barter with those individuals is going to be really important for people in the future. And it's going to be really big in terms of the steel economy that is seeming to form, especially in this alpha. Then also to build and to craft away. So there's a lot of crafting improvements and changes that have gone in. One of the big ones that we featured so far is the relic system. That is how you unlock gear that has spells on it. And for any of you who are just tuning in to Pax Dei, the way that spells work in the game is you equip them as part of your armor. So you will make a chainmail hauberk, and that will have a specific spell on it if you had the right recipe for it and you had the right materials for it. So that's how it is right now. There's a lot of new spells in the game for everyone to uncover. There are actually probably still spells that the alpha testers in the Friends and Family alpha still have not found. And that is a really, really cool thing. And there is a challenge to go and find all of those things. It is a very difficult task getting to the end of a dungeon. So there is a lot of progression to be had, not only in the crafting side, but in the PvE side. And then that is complemented by this PvP zone. And it is just altogether a really, really fun experience right now. And there we go. We had our highlight of the entirety of the interview. If you haven't seen that yet, you should totally go and check it out. I have it linked down below. It's totally worth a watch. It'll give you a teaser of some of the cool points that were made across all of our interviews. And yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. And like I was saying earlier, you need to make sure that you apply for the alpha before April 15th. So please just make sure that you go and do that. And then also in terms of some of the changes that have been going on, and we've been touching on these in a lot of the interviews and stuff like that have been coming out over the last couple of days. There have been a lot of system overhauls. Their RPG system, so all of the stats and the associated benefits have all been getting tweaked around a lot. The NPCs, the enemy NPCs have all been going through a rebalance. They're a lot more difficult. They have challenges to them. You really have to take every engagement with some strategy, and you definitely are going to need friends if you want to progress through bigger, badder points of interest or dungeons for that matter. Then they've also improved targeting. So they're adding in the target lock system. It's a toggle. You can turn it on or off. It's not going to really help you if you're using a bow because you have to lead your shots, and those are very skill-based, but it will help melee players who are trying to target a specific player or something like that. And maybe you're in a really big scrim and you just want to be able to select the one player and be able to strafe around them a lot better. And there is actually some pretty cool combat techniques for that as well that players are already working on developing. And then there is also nutrition restoration. So they have added a lot of new food into the game. They last a lot longer. I think it's like 20 minutes or more on a lot of things. And they have drastic improvements on your health. The foods that are in game have been really lackluster up until this point, and now they really, really matter a lot. They're critically important depending on the type of activity that you're doing, and it'll be able to increase your health far into the 200s, 300s, and it can also give you a lot of resistances and stuff, which are going to be really, really important for going into these more difficult PvE areas, as well as probably PvP too. Then they've also included item repair and durability, as well as they went through a general balance pass for a lot of the game mechanics. And today, we also dropped our first interview section. This is on combat. You should also check that one out. There is a lot of important information that's there, but I'm not going to steal our own thunder there. I will let you go and check it out. And then in addition to that, there's also a lot of world enhancements. The engine that they're working on, as we all know, Unreal, has just unreal potential, and it has a constantly expanding set of features that the developers are able to gain access to. Recently, they've been going through a lot of lighting passes and adjusting some of the atmospheric effects that we're all able to see. And then, of course, there's the player versus player zone, which was just added as well. And that is a super fun zone. And we are going to have a lot of really cool footage to share with all of you on March 29th when we go into our PvP interview. But that is all of the information that I wanted to share. It also goes without saying, they had a couple of really cool screenshots here. This is a shot from a dungeon. I don't know if I was in that group or not. Some people told me I was, but either way, it is nuts. Dungeons are crazy. We'll talk about them. There are a lot of named mobs that are walking around in there. A lot of death. A lot of death. I'm scarred by dungeons, actually. But in the best way. It's not a bad thing. It's actually really, really cool. Here is a corrupted bear. I don't even want to know the amount of damage that player is about to receive. A normal bear does a lot of damage. Corrupted things do even more. So yeah, that's not fun. And then one of the most beautiful shots I've seen recently of a sunrise, and that's saying something because there are a lot of really nice looking sunrises in Pax Dei. But those were the 3 screenshots that were also shared with today for the normal Friday information drop. Next week, March 29th, we are going to have the PvP interview section. Definitely be on the lookout for that. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified when we do post new Pax Dei and Pax Dei related content. Like this video if it's the type of content you enjoy, and share it with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. Until next week, I am going to go eat some pizza. I'll see you in the next video.